I feel like we haven't seen the real virality that's going to come with this YSL trial and this bombshell testimony that's been taking place this week, right? The person testifying, his name is Trontavious Stevens, right? He is a supposed founder of YSL. So just the fact that they had, and he's a state's witness. So the state called this man to testify against the people, on trial right now, pretty much against Young Thug. And this is a bombshell testimony because he's a star witness, right? This man was supposed to be the one that helped start setting the stage to take down YSL because he has insider knowledge. He was there from the beginning. He can give the jury a timeline of the events, tell them, hey, they were doing this. We were committing these crimes. We were committing these crimes to further the criminal gang and to instill fear in the hearts of our, adversaries, our ops or our rivals, whatever like that, rival gang members, all that type of stuff, or people in the community. That was his job, and that's the job of every person who was because Trontavious Stevens was a defendant in the original case, but he took a plea deal. So now he's a state's witness. And he agreed to that in his plea deal to testify truthfully to the facts of the case, the quote unquote facts of the case, AKA testify to agree to all the things that us as the state believe happened. Right. So this Cat Williams thing was so big that people, I don't think, have fully gotten a chance to sit down and watch this man's testimony in criminal court in Georgia's biggest trial ever. Listen, this man is up there acting like, first of all, a lot of people are saying like, oh, this is sad. He's ignorant. He don't understand math. He don't know how to do it. This man is acting like the stupidest person in history right now on that stand. He is up like this lady, the prosecutor asked him, how old were you in 2010? He's like, I don't know. I'm trying to, I can't remember. It's so long ago, I don't remember. She's like, you don't know how old you were in 2010? He was like, nah. She was like, can you try to think about it real quick? Like, you were born in 1993. So how old were you in 2010? This man picked up a pen and was about to start doing the math. He said, let me do the math real quick. She said, no, don't do the math. How about this? Like he is flipping on them right now. And he's their witness. He's the prosecution's witness. This man said, I don't know how old I was. He picked a pen up to write down the numbers to figure out how old he was in 2010. Masterful. They get to the point where they say they supposedly affiliated with the Bloods, right? The Blood gang, Sex, Money, Murder. So they get up in there and they say like, so are you familiar with any blood gangs? He's like, yeah, I'm familiar with any blood gangs. She was like, what blood gangs are you familiar with? He was like, the Bloods. I don't know what you mean. Like, I'm familiar with the Bloods, the blood gang. I'm familiar with it. So eventually I guess he like ran out of acting stupid with that one. So then eventually he said like, I'm familiar with Sex, Money, Murder, whatever. And then she was like, can you show us like any hand signs, identifications and all that type of stuff with Sex, Money, Murder? He like, nah, I don't really know any. So she can't go because like I said previously in another episode, the judge and they're not allowing the prosecution to go forward with the questioning or a certain type of questioning unless the witness says something first. So if the witness won't say what the prosecution wants them to say, then the prosecution can't ask questions furthering their own agenda in this case. So he's like, I don't really know nothing about Sex, Money, Murder. And he got on stand and said, admitted to being a fake blood gang member. He pretty much said, yes, I was falsely claiming the Bloods. I was never in it. So that further messes up this whole thing because they've been saying this YSL is like a subset and affiliated with the Sex, Money, Murder Bloods. They're all part of the YSL. They all part of the Rock Crew, and they was all part of Sex, Money, Murder Bloods. But he's like, nah, I was false. That I never got jumped into it, so I never was initiated. I'm not really a gang member. I'm not a blood gang member anyway. I was fake flagging, pretty much is what he was saying. I was faking. So that messes up the questioning and all that, right? They can't go forward with that one. So then they're asking him like, all right, so you got these tattoos, like you was wearing all this red and stuff. Like, why were you wearing all this red? He like, oh, well, because like Young Thug did a partnership with Rich Gang and the colors, like the theme of the partnership the collab was red and black. So they had a whole bunch of merch that was red and black. So I just had a bunch of red items. They like, so it didn't signify nothing else. It was just a collab with a merch thing. He's like, yeah, it was just a merch thing. She like, what does merch mean? He like, I don't know what merch. Merch to me just mean merch. He like, this merch. What merch doesn't mean anything else? Like merch, like merchandise. She like, yeah, it means merchandise. He like, well, it just means merch to me. I don't know. Dude is putting on a great performance. Like they get to this point in the thing where they're looking at his tattoos, right? So he has a B it's a B inside of a money bag on his neck. Then he has an F, like if you've seen the famous clothing line, the clothing line is called Famous, but it's an F with like a star in it. The F on his neck and then an L on his neck. The L is made with the shape of a gun, right? So she's like, yo, trying to break down his tattoo. So asking her, like, where did that F come from? And why is it cut? Because the F has red ink around it. So she's like, why is there red ink on there? He's like, I got the red ink because that's like because I'm dark skinned. That's one of the only colors that'll show up on my skin. She's like, so it's not have anything to do with bloods or a gang or nothing like that. He was like, nope. It's just because that's the only color that'll show up on my skin for real. So then she says, okay, so what does this tattoo mean? This BSF. I mean, this BFF. FL. What does it mean? He was like, well, because you see the B is in the money bag. BFL actually stands for banking first and last, or bank first and last, meaning like we put the money before everything. I'm like, oh, this nigga's a genius right here. Like this is genius activity that we seeing here. Like we thought Brian Steele was crazy when he said like thug stood for truly humble under God. Like we thought that was just outrageous, right? But the work that this boy Trontavious Stevens, aka Tick, aka Slug, is putting in on this stand, he is refusing to go home being considered a snitch. He is refusing. And if this testimony is anything, is any indication of what the rest of the defendants are going to do, Thug is coming home. Not only is Thug coming home, but when he comes home, the state is going to lock the rest of them up for perjury. 100%. The rest of them are getting perjury. If they do what Trontavious Stevens is doing, first of all, he's going to get a perjury charge. They're coming for him. The prosecutor got so mad when this man was testifying, or so irritated, visibly shaken at this man's testimony. She stopped asking him questions about the case and brought out his 35-page plea agreement and then proceeded to go over his plea agreement in front of the court, in front of the jury with him, saying, don't you remember seeing this plea agreement? Don't you remember that you agreed to testify truthfully enough? Don't you remember you said that this was a gang? Don't you remember you said this? Don't you remember you said that? You know what this man said? He said, yeah, but everybody else had a month to look over their plea agreement. I only had a day. Y'all gave me a 30-page plea agreement and only a day to sign it. Like I didn't really understand what I was signing. She was like, did you tell anybody that you didn't, or did you tell Miss Hilton, the other lady, that you didn't understand what you were signing? He was like, no, I didn't tell. I told you. So he telling the lady, the prosecutor, I told you. And then she objects. She tells, Your Honor, I object to what he's saying. She's objecting to her own witness. This lady objected to her own witness like 3 times up there. Like, y'all have to understand what's going, like, this is out of pocket. This whole thing is crazy. The rails have fallen. This man been testifying for 3 days now, and it's all direct examination. This is all the prosecutor questioning this man. He hasn't even been spoken to by the defendant's attorneys yet on cross-examination. 3 days, this is a state's witness, and they can't get anything out of him. They even got to the point where they said, ask this man, what is a snitch? He said, I don't know what a snitch is. They're like, well, what does it mean to you? He was like, I don't really know. It don't mean nothing to me, but I think it kind of means like law enforcement. Like if you're a snitch, you law enforcement. She was like, snitch means law enforcement. And she tell him, use it in a sentence. So he used it in a sentence. And she's like, now explain that sentence. She's like, yeah, I guess I'm saying he's law enforcement. Like this, I haven't seen nothing like this before. Honestly, I have not seen anything like this before. What he's doing up there is what people say they would do if they got in a situation where they was like forced to testify against one of their friends or brothers or something like that. But rarely do they do it because they get up there and they get scared and then they just start answering questions because they feel like I got to answer these questions or I'm going to get in trouble or something like that. This man is really executing a plan. He don't know what age he was when nothing was going on. He don't remember the first time he met nobody. He don't know nothing. It's brilliant. Another thing that happened. Oh, it's another thing. Part of the whole state's opening statement, right? They had a whole big thing about how this gang became to be, right? This YSL gang came to be. And one of the things they said was that all of these YSL members were originally Rock Crew members, and Rock Crew stands for Raised on Cleveland Crew, right? And they were all in Rock Crew, and then Rock Crew had some type of falling out, and then they branched off and created YSL as a sub gang, pretty much like a revamped gang. Like, we're gonna start our own gang now. We're not with the Rock Crew no more, type of thing. Another thing this man said, she said, can you name some people in the Rock Crew? And Brother Stevens is like, he started naming people. He's like, me, my brother, my cousin, like my friends, we was in the Rock Crew, right? She's like, do you see anybody in the courtroom that was in the Rock Crew? So he looking around like, he like, let me see. He like, nah, nobody in the courtroom was in the Rock Crew. She like, you don't see anybody in this courtroom that was in the Rock Crew. He's like, nah, nobody in here. Nobody in this courtroom was raised on Cleveland. That's what he kept saying. He's like, I don't see anybody in here that was actually raised on Cleveland. She's like, okay, but was anybody in the Rock Crew? She was like, he's like, to be in the Rock Crew, you have to be born and raised on Cleveland. And nobody in this courtroom, pretty much besides me, was raised on Cleveland. All of them came around later. So that right there was probably, like, all the other stuff that I brought up was like, that just made them look stupid and all that. But that him saying that these people wasn't in the Rock Crew is probably the most damaging part of his whole testimony, because the entire premise was these dudes started out as gang members in the Rock Crew, which was affiliated with the Sex Money Murder Bloods. And then they branched off and started their own gang with the same principles and activities as the Rock Crew. Him saying none of these people was even in the Rock Crew because they wasn't even from there. Now that's the one right there. I'm so tuned into this thing because I'm ready to see how the prosecution is going to because they took a recess until Monday. So I'm anticipating how the prosecution is going to spin this and try to figure out and salvage what's going on. Because like I said, this man hasn't even been cross-examined yet. So once the defense get on him, it's really over. You know what I'm saying? It's like really, really over. Oh man, this is a legendary testimony. I'm putting this up there as one of the best testimonies I ever heard, ever. This man is determined to not come home being looked at as a snitch. He gonna be looked at as a king if they able to beat this case, because that testimony messed their whole case up. Let's just say, even if you get jammed up and you say, all right, I got to go back, do some time for perjury, which they're not just going to give you time for perjury, because everybody who took deals in that YSL case, they have probation and like 10 years of probation. Meaning, so we sentenced you to 10 years, but then we suspend the whole thing and just give you probation. So if you get a probation violation, we can now give you that entire 10 years back. Perjury would be classified as a violation of your probation, and you would get time for the perjury, and you would also get that time, whatever the judge decides to give you, for violating your probation. And they can give you up to 10 years. They can give you the whole thing back. So that's a danger that he's running into. He said he just got his CDL, so it's a very dangerous game that my man is playing. However, he made a decision that he was going to go forward doing it. It's too late to turn back now, so he might as well continue going forward doing what he's doing. Like I said, once you choose that life, you choose that life. He's choosing to go out like this, and can you be mad at him? You don't want to be. You really would have to move out of Atlanta if you went up there and did the wrong thing. Honestly, like, you would have to leave the city, and he probably don't want. He said he still live over there, like still actively lives there. He's not a rich rapper's friend. Like, he's a person that's going through hard times financially, had to go get his CDL. Like, would have a hard time being around his friends and family he grew up with if he went in that courtroom and did the wrong thing. I could guarantee you that much. Before I transition off of this, I want to say, for people who normally try to talk about how like street dudes is like stupid and they make bad decisions and do all that good stuff. Now, while it is not smart to, find yourself in situations like they're in right now, for them to be considered like these like violent crime bosses that they've been painted by the media in Atlanta and all this type of stuff, by the prosecution and by Fulton County District Attorney's Office, the state has been having a very hard time linking these people to many major like bad crimes. they have them associated with a bunch of like drug possessions and stolen gun possessions, stolen car stuff, like not minor, but small time offenses, petty crimes, pretty much. They don't when they talk about organizations like this and how violent they are and all that, you would normally say, okay, yeah, they had this many people killed, they had this many people shot, they had this many. They don't have none of that. So they have been moving the way people say street dudes are supposed to move. They have been moving like that because the state is even the murder that they have associated with this case from 2015. Do y'all realize that they charged them before with this? And back years ago, right around when it first happened, people got charged for that murder and they got let go. They dismissed it. The reason they dismissed it is because they couldn't put no case together. They're having a very, very, very hard time pinning charges on these dudes. So they're really moving the way people say street dudes are supposed to move. Like the state is really struggling to get them. And maybe they are guilty of everything that people be accusing them of. But the way that they moved around with whatever type of rules, tactics, strategies that they used, it is making it damn near impossible to get them. So that's why they use this RICO case to try to round up as many of them as they can, because they can't get none of these charges to stick. So while some people might look at them, look down on whatever, I would say you got to salute how smart they have moved to keep their names unassociated or disassociated with some of these heinous crimes that that has been rumored to be associated with them, but nobody can get any hard facts on it. So I just wanted to say that, man. Y'all if you into this type of stuff, man, make sure you watch. I watched the trial on a YouTube channel called Law and Crime. Great YouTube channel to watch any type of criminal case on, any type of trial. That's a great one to watch. That's a great channel to watch because in between like court recesses and stuff like that, they have lawyers commentating. It's like watching a football game. They have lawyers and stuff like that commentating on what's going on, what they see, what they think is coming, what they think is happening, how they think the trial is going, all that type of stuff. So, man, this is a good case. This is the biggest case that Georgia's ever seen. It'll be the longest. It's the most expensive. It's a landmark case in the state of Georgia. Careers will be made off of this, and some people will be probably fired because of what's going to happen as a result of it. So, yeah, man, I think y'all should check it out.